Get started with Social Security, and I like this brain teaser because in life, here's the question. Would you want to be early or delayed, okay? Pay a penalty or get a bonus? And that really sums up a bunch of different things that happen in Social Security, right? Because you can claim Social Security early. If you claim it early, you get a penalty. If you wait and take it later, okay, and delay that, you're also going to get a little bit of a bonus. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So what do we want to know about Social Security? It is really one of our income sources, right, in retirement. I think everybody knows that, so we'll keep on going here, okay? We firmly believe that people are making some really bad decisions when it comes to Social Security. And the reason we say that is because we talk to our neighbors, we talk to a lot of people about Social Security, but not always to our financial advisor, to our banker, to someone who might have some knowledge, because your neighbor probably has a different circumstance than you do. So therefore, we really need to make a decision that's based on your particular situation. I can tell you, if you wait till you're age 70, yes, you're going to collect a whole lot more in Social Security than if you took it at 62. But that doesn't count for all those years in between, or where you're going to get the income from by waiting between those years. So that's why we say that maybe you're hurting yourself by not looking through the entire scenario and making the right decision for you, your family, loved ones, etc. So you have a couple of handouts in front of you. The first one is the Baby Boomers Guide to Social Security. It has all the basics on Social Security, all the way down to their website, everything that you could possibly want to figure out some basics on Social Security. Then we also have an analysis that we do. We have some software that we really like that we can put just about any scenario you give us into that software and come up with an idea of what it's going to look like for you when it comes time to collect Social Security, whether you collect at 62, 63, 64 and a half, I don't care. We will look at it and see if we can't find the right scenario for you. We also have the ability then to look and see if you have a job that is not covered by Social Security and you have a WEP or a GROW, so the windfall elimination program, or the GROW is a government offset. Those programs we can go in and help you figure out how much you're going to get in Social Security, if anything at all, because sometimes you're not included in Social Security because you didn't pay into the system. So what do we want to know? Okay, get lots of options. Like I just said, there's many, many claiming options. Your decisions are far-reaching and have consequences. So if you decide tomorrow to claim Social Security at age 62, okay, you're taking a penalty, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that decision pretty much is permanent if you don't make a decision to change that within 9 months. Once you make that decision, you really can't go back. And even if you decide to go back, you have to pay back everything that you already received in order to make that decision and start over again. So it's really has some consequences that you may not like. It also affects your spouse. So if you are married, when you claim your Social Security, may affect your spouse in the grounds that when something happens to one of you, what Social Security check are you going to receive? So we'll talk about that a little bit more. There's a lot of conversation out there about Social Security being broke. It is not broke. We'll talk about the condition that Social Security is in. It is certainly not a Ponzi scheme, although some days it does feel that way, okay? There's a lot of things that feel that way to me when it comes to the government handing us something, right? Which, in my mind, they didn't hand us anything. We all paid into that system. And you probably know somebody that benefits have helped. So we will talk about that as well, that there are some benefits for other family members. I have someone right now who is caring for a grandchild, and that grandchild is getting Social Security because the grandparents are getting Social Security, and they have custody of that child. So you never know when you may need some of these other benefits. Last but not least, your friends are not your experts, okay? They may know some things, but they may not know everything that you need to know to make the best decision for you. So I answered this question a little bit a minute ago, and that is, will Social Security be there for you? Everybody but maybe Ann in this room, okay? Sorry, I don't know everybody's age, so I shouldn't go there. But more than likely, Social Security for most baby boomers, we're not going to be affected, okay? I'm in that camp too. Really is not going to affect us. They may change how well it's indexed for inflation, but it is really not going to have any big consequence for baby boomers. It may a little bit later on for some of the younger generation be done a little bit differently, but we still believe that Social Security will be there for them as well. How much can you expect to receive? We're going to go through how that works. It's basically based on how many years you worked and how much money you made during your lifetime of working. And then we'll talk about maximizing benefits. To maximize your benefits, it really depends on if it's a couple or if it's an individual that's claiming, and then also when we want to wait to collect those benefits. Last but not least, will Social Security be enough to live on? I think most of you in this room knows that probably not. Okay, you're probably not going to be able to live on just Social Security. You're probably going to have something else to help you. So we're going to understand the value is the biggest thing that we're going to talk about here on Social Security. If we look at over our lifetime, how much are we going to collect? And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. I think I answered this question. Is Social Security going to be there for you? It is. So here is the fund balances. This is the balance on December 31st of 22. The balance was $2.83 trillion. Okay. Total income that came into the fund during 2023 was $1,351 trillion. We had expenditures of $1.39 trillion to have a net decrease of $41 billion. So there is still $2.788 trillion in the Social Security fund. So is there money there? Yes. Are we starting to go into the deficit? Yes. Because what happened? Do we all have as many children as our parents had? The answer is no. So there's not as many people working or more people collecting on Social Security than there are paying into it at the moment. We're also living longer, so that's the big one. So as far as the projection go, when we start hearing about Social Security going broke, this here in the middle is really about where we are. So right now, between now and 2034, and this is a projection done by the government, they can pay 100% of the benefits. Starting in the year 2035, if something is not done, they're only going to be able to pay 83% of what they promised you. It's really not possible to pay any more than that. By 2098, they're only going to be able to pay 73%. That's if nothing changes. We're hoping that Congress will talk to each other and that they will decide that they are going to fix the Social Security system. Here are a couple of the ones that actually make sense to me on what will we do to make the system solvent and how are we going to get there. Currently, right now, depending on your income, Social Security is only taxed on $168,600. Anything over that is not taxed to the Social Security system. Now, the benefit doesn't get any bigger either, but that's the most that you can collect Social Security on. Raise the normal retirement age, currently 67 for those born in 1960. That is not my favorite one by far. I have a nice job. I get to sit in an air-conditioned building. I have heat every day. I get to sit. I am not out in the elements. I'm not trying to lift things over my head. I'm not on a roof, etc. Just not sure that maybe moving this number past 67, there's lots of talks of making it go all the way to age 70. Just not sure that we were designed to do that. I wish I could say we were, but I'm not sure we were. Lower the benefits for future retirees, that is an option. But there's also a way to change how we're indexing for inflation. Right now, benefits are based on consumer prices rather than wages. And if that was flipped around, that might make things a little bit better and make it change a little bit more. Or just reduce or eliminate the cost of living. Not sure how we do that because I don't know about you, but I pay more for things today than I did last year. So if we start reducing those kind of things, I'm not sure how then Social Security is going to be able to keep up. So bottom line is, like I said, Social Security is going to be there for us. So what's a clearer way for us to think about Social Security? A clearer way for us to think about Social Security is this. Social Security currently is inflation protected income. Okay? You paid into the premium with every paycheck. So we want to be smart about when we collect. And it's also something you can't outlive, right? So I'd love to invest your money, okay? Or Ann would like to invest your money. But we can't guarantee you, other than certain products, which we won't get into, we can't guarantee you that money's going to last your lifetime. We know Social Security is going to last your lifetime. It's a promise from the federal government. So when I say you cannot live, if your monthly benefit today, okay, is $2,000, okay, it's $2,000. In 10 years, okay, you will receive $262,793. Now this is assuming a 2% annual cost of living. In 20 years, you will collect $583,137. So, puts it in a little bit of perspective. How much more money do I need? How much do I think Social Security is going to cover? Is it going to cover half? Is it going to cover 3/4 of my expenses? Those lump sums make it a little bit easier for you to start to figure out how much more money do I need. If we add in the cost of living, now we know that in 10 years, that $2,000 is going to be $2,438. In 20 years, $2,973, and then in 30 years, $3,623. So we are showing you that every year you're going to more than likely increase because on average it's about a 2% cost of living. Some years it's been much more. We've had a few years in there where there was no cost of living adjustment whatsoever, but very few. On average, it's really a little bit more than 2%. We're using 2% to be conservative. I think it comes closer to about 2.8% is what it really is. So how much can you expect to receive? Okay, depends on two things. How much you earned over your working career and what age you claim benefits. So how are they calculated? This is a convoluted calculation that only somebody in Congress could make up, just so you know. Okay? At age 62, your earnings are all tallied and indexed for inflation. We take the highest 35 years and we average them. That's divided by 3 different bend points. I don't know where we got bend points at. Okay, to come up with your PIA. PIA, we use lots of acronyms, is your primary insurance amount. So that is the amount you would receive at full retirement age, which is different for everybody depending on the year you were born. Okay? And then the benefit increases each year by the cost of living. So that's what this looks like. Here's an example. Baby boomer in 1962, born in 62, is 62 this year. Okay? Maximum Social Security earnings every year since age 22. Pretty unlikely, but we'll use this for our scenario right now, okay? Their adjusted index monthly income is expected to be about $13,100. $1,174 at the first bend point of 0.9. The next bend point is 0.32, and the last bend point is 0.15 to come up to the number of $3,849.18. So that's why we don't calculate it. We rely on the government to calculate it for us. Not sure if that's a good thing or not, but that's kind of what we do, right? So what we're saying, why should we just collect at age 62, right? Why should I wait till I'm age 70? Well, you're going to be reduced. Your monthly benefit will be reduced if you claim early. Plain and simple. It may also be reduced for taxes, Medicare premiums, and benefits can be withheld if you're still working. So if you claim at 62 and you're still working, more than likely you're going to give some of that back if you make more than you're allowed to make in that particular time frame. So you have to think about that when you're deciding if you want to take Social Security now or not. So $64,000 question, right? When should I collect? Health, okay? That would be number one, okay? Can we not work anymore? Do we want to retire because we have some health issues? That may be one. Life expectancy. I have 2 aging parents. One's 89, one's 88. What's the chances I should collect early? Probably slim and none, right? I had grandparents, great-grandparents were 94, 96, one was 102. So more than likely, I should wait as long as I can. However, what happens if I need the income, right? You may just need the income. You may not be able to wait. So that's going to be another one. Do you plan to work? I talk to more and more people who feel they have to do something in retirement. So maybe they're only going to work part-time, but maybe you're going to work, and so we're going to have to take that into consideration as well. And last but not least is survivor needs, okay? Are we holding off because maybe we don't need the money right now, but we're worried about whether our spouse is going to need the money if something should happen to us? And they're going to get the larger check if that's the case. So we may want to do it that way as well. So I think I've answered this question more than once, but more than likely Social Security is not going to be enough for you to live on. Full retirement age, better known as FRA in the land of Social Security. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born in 1955, it is 66 and 2 months. 56, 66 and 4 months, okay, all the way down to 59, 66 and 10. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. So that also means this. If you apply early, okay, if my full retirement age is 66 and I apply 62, I'm going to get 75% of my benefit. But if my full retirement age is 70, I'm going to get 70%. So you see that it's going to get lower depending on when you claim. If I get all the way down here, I'm going to get 100%. Okay? On the contrary, if you wait, the federal government gives you 8% a year to wait. So after full retirement age, you're going to get an 8% bump. So if my full retirement age is age 66 and I wait to age 67, I get 108% of my PIA or my primary insurance amount. So on and so forth, all the way down to 70, I get 132. But if my full retirement age was 67, I lose one of those years, I'm only going to get 124%. Okay? Pretty simple, right? Not really. Okay? Kind of scary, kind of, okay, what do I do here? First thing first, and that is if you didn't get one in the mail, you can go online and you can get a Social Security statement. You need that Social Security statement because there's lots of information on there that will help us determine when's the better time to claim. It will also give us some ideas on if you had years in there that you didn't work or you worked in the private sector where it was not included in Social Security. We can then help calculate the discount that you're going to take for that particular reason. So, delayed benefits, okay? So, if you delay benefits and you get the bigger COLAs, okay, now you also get the cost of living adjustments. So now it gets even more, right? If you claim benefits at 62, okay, and your full retirement age was 70, and you get a cost of living, as you can see, the cost of living gets more just because you've waited to take those benefits. So it's another reason why you may want to consider delaying the benefit. More income later, okay? Age 70, 62, 67, okay, or at 70. So if your benefit is here, if you claimed it at 62 and it was $2,460, but you waited to 67, it was 35, or 70, it was 43.59. A much bigger number if you're looking on numbers to wait. These are what your benefits are going to grow to as you get older, okay, because we're looking at a cost of living adjustment there as well. So how can I maximize it, okay? We have a couple different ways. Improve your earnings. Who's the one that normally needs to improve their earnings? Women, right? We didn't work some of those years in the middle, so a lot of times we're going to work a few extra years because we can take those zeros out. When the government takes and looks at all the years we worked, okay, up to age 62, we might have some zeros in there, right? Because we didn't work some of those years. So now you've worked a few extra years, you can get rid of those zeros in the new numbers because they delete the 5 lowest numbers if you work more years. So you can get rid of those zeros. Now that number, that benefit gets a little bit better. Okay? Looking and see if it's accurate. Okay? Can you improve it by working longer, which is what I'm saying right now. So, apply for Social Security. Income needs now, in the future, your life expectancy, your spouse's life expectancy. That's another big one here. So, taxation. We already got to pay taxes on our money, right? Now the government's going to give it to us, and guess what? It's taxable. More than likely, okay? If you apply for Social Security, okay, before your full retirement age, okay, $1 in benefits will be withheld for every $2 you earn over $22,320 in age 24. Okay? So you're going to give some back. Every dollar in benefit will be withheld for any $2 you earn over the $22,320 if you're claiming before full retirement age. So don't let that discourage you, but just understand how that works. Maybe you only want to work full-time or part-time and you want to make sure that you stay underneath that number. Here's the other one. Filing status. If you're filing married, your provisional income. If you're under $32,000, none of your Social Security is taxed. Okay? 0. if you make jointly together 32 to 44,000, half of it is taxed, half your Social Security is taxed. And if you make over 44,000, 85. Now it is a convoluted way to figure it out as well. So we're going to take all your earnings, okay, that you have. We're going to add in any tax-free earnings, come up to this calculation, and half of your Social Security. So if you got $24,000 in Social Security, we're going to take 12,000 of that, plus any other income that you made, plus any tax-free income that you made, and add it together. If that number for the two of you is between 32 and 44, half your Social Security is now taxable. If it's over 44,000, 85% is taxable. None of it is taxable to the state of Ohio, but it will be taxable for the federal government. If you're single, the number is a little bit different. It is under 25,000, between 25 and 34,000, same kind of rules apply. The other issue is if you go over by $1, you are over. It's not like only that portion is taxed. If you go over, it is taxed. So you need to understand.
That income is including your Social Security?
Half of your Social Security.
Oh, okay.
Half.
Okay.
And if you have any like municipal bonds or something like that, so a lot of times you'll have some people have tax-free bonds, you have to add that tax-free income back in as well.
Okay.
So if you have a pension, let's say the pension is just $10,000 and you have $20,000 in Social Security, you're still only at 20, okay? And so now you're under the threshold, you won't be taxed. But yes, part of the Social Security gets added back in. Married, filing separately, living with the spouse, you get no benefits. So you need to be very careful on whether or not you are filing separately, okay? Because you may make all your Social Security taxable. Okay, so you have to think about that. So, other ways to do this. Reduce other income and tax advantage investments, not muni bonds. Like I said, we're gonna add any tax-free income back in there. This is the other one. What were we all taught to do, right? Since IRAs came out, we were taught to put money in our IRA. What happens at age 73? At age 73 now, you have to take money out of your IRA account. It's called a required minimum distribution. Is that required minimum distribution now going to put you over the threshold to make your Social Security taxable as well? So now you have to think about your strategy on when you want to take those distributions, or do you early on want to convert those to a Roth so that you don't have that problem later on. That's what this is. Delay Social Security. You know, do you have the other money to live on that you can delay the Social Security and not claim it right away to give yourself a chance to do some of the other things? Reduce expenses. There's lots of different things you can do to benefit it, but the biggest one is just to understand it, and then to continue to manage your taxes for retirement. So what do we want to do with the RMDs? Do we not have them? Are we lucky enough to have it all in Roth IRAs? There are some things that you can do. If you're charitably inclined, you can take that RMD if you don't need that money and give it to charity, and it never counts at all. Since a lot of us are not filing long form anymore, it's a way to get rid of that RMD without having to claim it as income. It can go directly to the charity and never show up on your 1040. So, and you can still do that at 70 and a half. So we have lots of rules. It depends on when you were born, on what year you have to start RMDs. Most people have to start them at 73, but the 70 and a half rule still applies to the charitable deductions. So, Medicare, all right? Part Medicare this year, right now, it was $174.70. Going into 2025, Medicare premiums went to $185 a month. So let's talk a little bit about Medicare before we get into some of the rest of this, okay? So we know that Medicare is $185. It will automatically be deducted from your Social Security check if you were already collecting Social Security. If you are not collecting Social Security and you turn 65, you have to file for Medicare, or you have to be employed and work for a company that has more than 100 employees and has what we call credible coverage. Okay? I did say that right? Clear as mud, as people would tell me. So, I'm turning 65. Pretend today I'm turning age 65. I am still working. I work for an employer that has more than 100 employees, and they have credible coverage. So in other words, credible coverage is nothing more than as good a coverage as I would get with Medicare. I do not have to sign up for Medicare, okay? And there's no penalty. However, if I work for a company that only has 50 employees, I do have to sign up for Medicare. I have no option, okay? If you are not collecting Social Security, you then have to pay for your Medicare from another source, right? You have to write a check for your Medicare. Every quarter, you will write that check. Okay? Question? Everybody's looking at me for sure like, okay.
Okay, I'm on his insurance.
Yes.
I'm turning 65 next year.
Mm-hmm. Retired or not retired?
I'm gonna work a little
No.
past.
Is he retired or not retired?
No,
Okay.
he's still working.
Okay. Is the employer have more than 100 employees?
I don't think so, but we got really, I mean, we got Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
It's probably better than Medicaid.
Well, more than likely it is, but your employer more than likely is going to force you to take Medicare, okay? Because they don't conform to their rule. There has to be more than 100 employees, okay, and have credible coverage. So more than likely, you will go on Medicare. You're going to pay the $185 that it costs. The supplement will more than likely be the insurance that you have through his work. Okay? So you won't have to go through what you're listening to on television right now and figuring out if you want A, B, C, D. Okay? It's as simple as that. Not really. But okay? A is free. A is hospital. B is the doctor coverage, and that's the $185. Okay? D stands for drugs, and it is the drug plan. They're all over the map. Depends on what you're looking for, what you need, if you're willing to mail order, all those kind of things. Okay? And then last but not least, there's a C plan, which is what you hear the most about on television. A C plan takes A, B, and D and combines them into one. You're still going to pay the $185. But you may not pay additional money for the supplement. It depends. Depends on what you're looking for when it comes to the supplement. C plans are cheaper than a supplement, but maybe have better coverage, maybe have less coverage. It just depends on what you're looking for. Okay? Once we get to the supplement plans, and I can have Ann send you a chart that talks about this. When you get to supplement, let's say you don't want a C, you want an A and a B and a D. We have to go find that drug plan. But we also have to find a supplement, right? Because the supplement is what's going to pay the other bills other than the hospital and the doctor at the hospital. It's going to pay all those, when you go to visit the doctor, when you have tests done, all those kind of things. That's what the supplement pays
Like
for.
co-pays or?
There have co-pays, but it's also going to, so A pays for the hospital, B pays for just doctors, but it only pays for 80%. So that's why you get a supplement. So the supplement then depends on what you want, on what you're going to pay for. Supplements also have the alphabet soup. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, M, N, P. Few of them are not available anymore. You can't get an F plan anymore. You can't get a P plan anymore. So, like I said, another alphabet soup. Those plans are priced almost identical depending on, it doesn't matter what insurance company you go to. So if you have an A plan, the government gives them a range of what they can charge. B plan, so on and so forth. So that's what's happening there. So again, we have an A plan, okay, a B plan, and a D plan. And then you need a supplement. Or you combine them all together and you buy Part C.
So Part C is not the supplement? It's
No,
the supplement.
Part C is different. It takes A, B, and D, combines it into one, and the insurance company runs it. A and B is run by the federal government. C is run by an insurance company. D is run by an insurance company. The supplement is run by the insurance company. We do not sell any of this, but we'll be more than happy to help you get on Medicare, compare them, make a decision. I can see y'all looking at me like, oh dear God. We get to the age where all these things
So if you want the
work.
best coverage of everything and you want everything covered,
You're
I
going
want
to
the
buy- you're gonna-
supplements, I
yep.
want this, how much is that?
So if you're looking at a supplement, it depends then too. Supplements are either age-based or community-based, okay? So I would say anywhere from $70 to $250 more, over and above the $185 that comes out of your Social Security,
All right.
okay?
Yep.
So then here, we're talking here, Medicare, like I said, this is going to come out of your Social Security check. So you're 67, you get $2,600. If you claimed at 62, that number went down, but your Medicare premium didn't go down. So that's what we're saying about also looking here. If you applied early, you can't change this. Your benefit is lower, it stays lower for life, unless you pause it. That's the only way you can do something that you're not paying it back. So let's say I'm 64, and I decide I want to collect Social Security because I lost my job. At 66, I find a really good job. I have the ability to pause my Social Security. I can tell them, stop sending it to me. I can only tell them to stop sending it to me till I'm 70. At 70, you have to take it whether you want it or not. Okay? So I do have that ability. Will it grow? Yes. Does it grow by as much as it would have if I had never taken it? No. I'm not going to live very long. I hear this a lot. So my favorite one is my stepfather. My stepfather told me that he was only going to live to age 80. At 83, I asked him how it was working out for him, okay? Because he was bound determined that's all the older he was going to be. And I said, your mother was 92. I'm trying for the life of me to figure out. He was playing the law of averages. His father was young when he passed away, so he was certain. He was 86 when he passed away, okay? But in his defense, at least he did wait till later. My mother gets a great Social Security check, which helps pay for her care in a long-term care facility. So either way, you can do these. Don't leave that. Please don't think I'm only going to live until I'm 70 and take Social Security that much earlier unless you have other things to supplement it. Because unfortunately, what are we doing later on? That makes it much more difficult to do. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't always work out the way we think it's going to. For couples, we always try and maximize it. So if both of you have worked, or even if you haven't. So I have a lovely couple who retired here not too long ago. He worked, she never did. She had no idea she was entitled to Social Security, none. So when he retired, he was full retirement age. She was the same age, full retirement age. She got half of his Social Security. He still got his $3,000. She gets $1,500. So it worked out for them, okay? Because they weren't expecting those additional monies. A lot of times we'll ask one spouse to wait till they're 70 to collect, and the other one will collect at 62, depending on how they're working. That way we can kind of blend those two numbers together. That's why we say we'll coordinate this for you and say, okay, what does it look like if you do this or if you do this? So, because what happens is somebody passes away, right? Invariably, one of us goes first, whether we like it or not. My husband says it's going to be him because he's not dealing with it, okay? And not going to deal with all this stuff. But it also depends then, the other person gets that Social Security check. You get the higher the two checks. So if his check is $2,000 and mine is only $1,500, he passes away, I now get $2,000. I'm still out money, right? Because before, as a couple, we were living on more money. So we still have to figure out, can I live on just that much money? But that's the reason we tell you to look at that number as well. Spousal benefits. Half of the primary worker, okay? So John's is $2,000. She works part-time. She gets $800. However, if she waits, okay, makes sure that she's full retirement age, she's going to get bumped up because of his. Rules. Primary worker must have filed, okay? Spouse must be at least 62 for reduced benefits. There is one exception, and that's death. You can claim as early as age 60. No delayed credits on spousal benefits after full retirement age. All that means is that when we ratchet it up, you don't get some of those benefits if you do that. Coordinate, like I just said, maximize strategy. Where the lower spouse primary insurance is more than 50% of the higher, we'd have both spouses delayed to 70 if it's possible. Just because it's guaranteed income. Also, can I do some of the other things we talked about? Can I do Roth conversions? Can I do some of those other things to try and not give so much away to Uncle Sam? Maximize lifetime benefits over the life expectancies. Hybrid. We can do a little bit of both, right? Generates income sooner. One of them gets some money early. One of them gets some money later on, or get more money later on. That's what I'm talking about here, which is that page you have in front of you. We can run it however you want it to look. You want to collect some at 62, 63, 64, we don't care. You just are forced to take your Social Security at age 70. So no matter what, you're going to have to take Social Security at age 70. Okay, so a widow. Okay, a widower or divorced. How does all this change? So if you're widowed or divorced, you may be eligible for survivor benefits, divorced spouse benefits, survivor benefits, divorced spouse benefits can increase your monthly paycheck. So we'll talk about these here. Survivor benefits depend on the age at which the deceased spouse originally claimed the benefit. So if I claimed early, okay, my benefit's lower. That's the reason this is going to be lower. If the deceased spouse claimed before full retirement age, the survivor benefit will be limited to the higher of the deceased spouse's benefit, or 82.5% of the amount. So that's why we're saying that normally the higher wage earner, we like to see wait until full retirement age. If the deceased spouse claims after full retirement age, the survivor benefit will include the delayed credits. So they're going to get the full amount. So like I said, my stepfather waited to age 70, my mother got his full benefit, so it was a good thing for us because we needed the money for her care.
Does everybody get that? Because I hear couples, they say they get a one-time distribution from Social Security of $250 and that's all they get.
So the $255 is a death benefit, okay, that is given to a spouse and only to a spouse. So if I'm not married, my children don't get that $255. But yes, if you are married, you get, depends on, if yours is more, then no, you're not going to get your spouse's because yours is more. So that number goes away. If theirs is more, you're going to get the increase to make it up to what that higher wage earners was. Okay? So the age at which the widow claims, okay, the actual benefit. If the survivor claimed before full retirement age, it's going to be a fraction. Okay, the original benefit of 71.5, the primary claimed at age 60. The survivor claims at full retirement age or later, the surviving benefit will be equal to 100% of the benefit, like I said. So if they were full retirement age, I die tomorrow, okay, I'm already collecting Social Security, my husband gets 100% of my benefit if it's more than his. He doesn't get his anymore, he gets mine. It's really not that simple. They basically get theirs and then they increase theirs to be whatever mine was. So that's the true way of how it works. Survivor benefits. If the spouse dies where both are receiving benefits, they can switch to the higher benefit, what we were just talking about. So delayed helps, right? Because she's going to get more money here, what we're talking about here. Rules for survivors. You had to be married 9 months, unless it's an accident. So you can't go out and marry some old man or old woman and think you're going to get higher benefits. It doesn't quite work that way, okay? You have to be married at least 9 months, except for in the case of an accident. Survivor must be at least 60 to get benefits, okay? Survivor benefit not available if the widower remarries before 60. So let's say I am 62 and I'm going to get remarried. I will not be eligible for my ex-husband's retirement. I might be eligible for my new husband's retirement. So if you get married after 60, there's some other benefits that go along the way there, okay? Divorced spouse is able to get money from the first spouse if they were married for more than 10 years. So let's say I got married and got divorced and I was married 12 years, okay? My husband made buku dollars. I can now go and claim on his benefit because it was more than mine. So can the other ex-wife and so can the current wife. Okay? So everybody gets some and it doesn't affect his benefit. He doesn't even know you're claiming. Or she, it doesn't matter. He or she, okay? He or
She could be the breadwinner, we don't know.
Absolutely, we don't know, especially nowadays, you don't know.
Yeah, you're selling,
Okay,
you're selling sexist here.
I am sorry. So, it doesn't matter. They used to use the story of Annie Rooney and how many times he was married, okay? And so therefore, all these people were claiming. But I can tell you, this is part of the reason why it's broke, right? If you're paying for that many people off of one wage earner, okay, this is part of the other issue. It's not just that we're living longer. So, but unfortunately, those are things that have now happened, not things they thought about when this first was started in 1939. No one would have guessed that these were the kind of questions or things we'd be thinking about. So, divorced spouse. Marriage lasted 10 years. Person receiving the benefit is currently unmarried. The ex-spouse is at least age 62, okay? If the divorce was more than 2 years, ex-spouse does not need to have filed for the benefits. So as long as you've been divorced for 2 years, you can go claim on the ex-spouse's benefit, and it doesn't matter. And they don't know. When you go to file for Social Security, I've helped a couple people that have been married more than once, and you get asked, what year did you get married? What year did you get divorced? All that goes all into the application so that they can go look and see if you're entitled to any other funds. Rules. More than one spouse can receive, just like I said. Benefits paid to one does not affect to anybody else, and the divorced spouse benefits stop upon the remarriage of the spouse collecting benefits. So if I'm collecting on my ex-husband and I get remarried, okay, I'm going to get my new spouse's or mine. That's it. If I get divorced a few years down the road, then I have options because I didn't get remarried till I was over 62 or over 60. So, again, convoluted. Thank your congressman. Okay. I know it's complicated, all right? Why we want to try and help. So, early or delayed, penalty or bonus. Also think about how we're going to look at this. We know that if you wait till you're age 66 or 67 or whatever that magic number is for you, we know exactly what that number is. Social Security tells you on their website, right? They tell you exactly what that number is going to be. It's if you wait longer or go earlier that number gets blurred. It's also if you need other income. Now, one of the things we did not talk about in here is if you worked for a school system or the government or something like that. If you did any of those, there are some calculations that go into that process. There's a lot of thought in Congress that that's going to go away, but as of right now, there's still what we call reductions. We can help you with those with the Social Security statement, figure out how much you're going to get, because we have to deduct all that money out, calculate what you're going to get, and help you figure out what that number is. They're called WEP and GROW. It's the Windfall Elimination Program, and I forget what the GROW stands for. Government Offset, something like that. Government Retirement Offset, I think is what it stands for. So it depends on which system you're in, but we can go in and help you figure out what those numbers may be. Medicare, again, the ABCs, right? Medicare is A, B, C, and D. A and B, primary, the thing that we knew the most about, right? D is new in the last couple of years for drugs. Supplement is normally what we did. And then about 10, 15 years ago, we added in the C plans, which are all run by insurance companies. C will take A, B, and D and combine them into one. No matter what, you are still going to pay the Part B premium, even if you take a C, which is $185. If you collect Social Security, it will come from your Social Security check. If you do not, Uncle Sam will send you a bill, and he will send you a bill for the full quarter. So you get 1 quarter, and it's normally in forward-looking, not in arrears.